All right, hey, what's up, guys? Coach Mac, Play Fast Football. All right, today I'm going to do a video on looking at changing up some pressure paths, why we might change up some of our pressure paths, trying to fit our personnel a little bit better and do some things that are a little bit more conducive to the types of bodies we have. Make sure you check out our partners, GameStrat, Sideline Replay Company we use. If you're looking for highly reliable, highly affordable, make sure you check out GameStrat. Dome Hats, the headwear company we use at Bishop Kenny High School. I've used them at previous schools. I use them with all my Play Fast stuff. Completely customizable hats. You can build a hat however you want with their online hat builder. They've got a 2-week turnaround program that they have going now. So make sure if you enjoy custom hats and you don't want stock hats right off the shelf, make sure you check out Dome Hats. Baker Sports, which is a company that provides us with sideline gear, coaches gear, practice gear. Our uniforms are distributed from them. They're in the shoulder pad world with pro gear now, big in the baseball world. Make sure you check out Baker Sports. Just Play Football is the playbook software we use. We use it for our installs, playbooks. A lot of our meetings are done in their presentation mode. I use it when I am on my Patreon site, diagramming things for my Patreon site. That's the playbook tool that I use. It's the best play drawing tool on the market. And then DifferenceUSA, the ultimate striking machine. You get thousands of reps. Don't need a partner. Don't have to teach somebody how to hold a bag, worry about a player providing resistance, holding a bag. You don't have to worry about injuries. They set up right on the racks in your weight room. Get thousands of reps striking, elbows in, thumbs up. If you want to strike violently, you have to practice striking violently. So one of the things that we need to look at for us a couple games into the season is we are not very big up front this year. So the D linemen that we're playing are a little bit undersized, but they move fairly well. So in some of our movement patterns or pressures, I think we need to find a way to possibly wrinkle some of those so that our guys can do jobs that may be a little bit more conducive for them, that better fit their skill set, right? So we still play tight front even though we're not that big, all right? We still try to push the ball out and kind of, get it to go sideline to sideline so we can run it down from the second and third level. We're trying to deny vertical entry. So we haven't really changed the way we play defense because of a smaller group that we have. But what we are doing is we are trying to wrinkle some of our pressure paths so that we can get things a little bit better for the guys that we are using up front. So, one of our pressure paths that we used early was a Sam linebacker underneath, all right, in the B gap, and originally we were leaving it alone on the front side, and it was really a single fire for us. When we go 4 down, we play the Mike down. So for us in our up front, it's the Mike and the Sam, but once we go 4 down, it's really a single fire, 3 under, 3 deep deal, right, where we rotate behind the Sam, and then there's our 3-hole player, all right, and then for us, our 2-seam guys become the safety and the will away from the pressure, and the middle safety becomes the 3-hole guy. We're playing 3 under, 3 deep. But what we're finding out is we may need to incorporate some different movements up front, all right, to try and figure out how we can get our guys to be more effective. So one of the first things I looked at was maybe we can change the gap that we leave open, and if we move the nose away from the pressure, maybe we bring our 4-eye back behind the nose, and now we've got ABC canceled on the front side of the pressure, and on the back side there's going to be an open B gap for the 2-seam player, or depending on what the run scheme is or what our middle safety is fitting off of number 3, we might have the middle safety inside out from the B gap there to the will linebacker who's the 2-seam player, right? So a lot of times when you're looking at college football or the NFL, a lot of times their pressures are constantly based off of where the center turns. Where can they get their one-on-ones? What's the back doing in protection? Do they turn their protection to the boundary? Do they turn it to the field? How do they protect? How do they use the center? And then you're trying to get your matchups off of that. For me in high school football, I'm constantly trying to find a way that I can be more effective with some of our run movements, right? So some of the things that we need to do to generate pressure, tackles for losses on first downs, ways that we can generate pressure in the run game, all right, to where it's not so much in high school. A lot of times the passing game is not as much from the pocket holding onto the football. It's sprint out. It's a lot of movement passes, and then it's a lot of quick passes with the ball out. So when you're diagramming pressures in high school, Even though, we have some third down stuff that we do, and we try to figure out where the center turns and where we can get our matchups, and, the sim creeper world that everybody lives in on Saturdays and Sundays. But I don't think the high school football game is conducive to that. So for me, when I'm looking at pressure pass, what I'm trying to figure out is, how can I get more effective in the run game? How can I affect the run game? And how can I get my bodies, all right, on defense to do things that are a little bit more conducive for them? So like I said, our 4 eyes, all right, right now the 2 starting 4 eyes we play are probably 185 pounds and 175 pounds. So we're playing tight front with 4 eyes that are on the smaller spectrum, okay, because we don't really use our offensive linemen as much on defense. We try to use as many defensive linemen. So it's kind of that old school, almost, I would look at it like the old school 3-3 stack philosophy, where we're playing smaller players, and now we've got to be able to move a little bit to protect them, right? So we still play tight front. We don't get away from that. But we don't really have the 4-eye bodies to just occupy gaps. So initially, when we had pressures drawn up, we had the single fire, and we were just kind of moving the nose and then leaving the 4-eye and the mic. But now what we're looking at is we may need to find ways where we start moving the 4 eyes a little bit more when we pressure, because they're smaller bodies and we're trying to get more out of those 4 eyes, right? So, one of the other ones we had was just kind of a, just your standard way of creating, some double eagle bear fronts, right, from our tight front. So from the same front with the mic up, all right, we had one of our 4 under 2 deep trap pressures was involving our middle safety, right, and we were bringing our middle safety up off the edge, leaving the 4-eye, all right, and then based on the game plan, we were moving the nose one way or the other, and then we were leaving the 4-eye on the backside, leaving the mic, and now we're basically building bear front defense, right? So from that front for us, from our tight front, that's the way we play defense. We take away B gaps a lot of the times, or at least we try to, because a lot of spread offenses, that's where they want to go. That's where the RPOs want to go. So we try to eliminate B gaps as much as possible. All right, so this was basically one of our 4 under 2 deep trap pressures. All right, and originally it was just bringing the middle safety off the edge to create that bear look and playing 4 under 2 deep behind it. All right, based on personnel sets that we're seeing. A lot of times we like to choice our zone pressures to where we give the middle safety the choice. If you get 3-by-1, you're going to run 3 under 3, but if you get 2-by sets, you can run your trap pressure. So we build a lot of choices into our pressures. So this was a simple way for us to get the middle safety involved, who's one of our better players. We play our 4 under 2 deep trap coverage, and we basically build bear front defense, right? And then to a set like this with the slot here, I don't know if I like exactly having the front side A-gap open, right, on a pressure where the Sam might be a 2-seam dropper and the Will might be removed a little bit when he's vertical 2-seam on that side. So one of the things that we looked at was, if we take the same pressure and we use the nose front side and we try to bring the 4-eye behind him, now we're going to leave the B gap open to the side of the pressure, which is a little bit easier fit for the Sam. All right, but we're taking this player that moves really well but is light, and instead of asking him to hold a point as a 4-eye, we're trying to build a movement into where now, as a player that runs well, now we're trying to affect schemes, or we're trying to get involved in the run game where we're bringing movements behind him while still staying within the same pressure path. Our pressures, we've done videos on this before, our pressures are built on being one-word calls, families, our guys understanding when we call certain blitzes in families, who the blitzes are, what the coverage is. So we didn't want to draw up new pressures, we just wanted to adjust the paths a little bit so that when we use these pressures, all right, now we're kind of changing where the open gap is in the 5-man pressure, but we're also trying to get it to where our 4-eyes, so in the previous pressure it was the weak side 4-eye coming behind. Now in this pressure, it's the strong side 4-eye coming behind, letting our nose move, and then bringing the 4-eyes behind that. All right, and again, all right, probably not really sure in the line of fire how it's going to look in the run game yet. All right, but our thought process, or at least my thought process, is how do I get lighter bodies more involved rather than just pressuring and playing them in a gap in our base defense, they're B-gap players. We ask them to hold the B-gap, hold the point of the B-gap. All right, they're a little bit lighter, so they get moved a little bit easier. All right, but we've done a better job the last 2 weeks in our first 2 games that we were able to win, gave up 20 points in each game, so we're not playing lights out defense, but they're getting a little bit better understanding how to at least take vertical entry of runs away and get the ball to go where we need it to go, but they're not big bodies that can just occupy gaps. So when we start to move and we start to pressure, all right, if we struggle or if we're trying to get tackles for losses on first down or if we're trying to generate some positive plays for the defense, now when we do so, we're trying to figure out how we can make them more active. Because my philosophy is, as a base odd team, I don't like movement from day one. All right, I like base defense in our tight front, in our 3 high stuff. All right, we have some 4 down that we use in different ways. So we have some odd 4 down, which looks like mid front, and then we have some standard over 4 down, which is your traditional over front stuff. But in our base odd front, I don't like sending a fourth, slanting, moving, your old-fashioned slant and angle stuff, which, excuse me, I know if you were lighter and smaller like we are, then maybe moving more and sending a fourth, getting to, over and under fronts by slanting and allowing your guys to move. I know that that's probably a solid way to play with smaller D linemen. I don't like moving as a base structure. I like to play base defenses, fit runs, get the ball sent where I want to, and then build in protections off of that for the defense, right? So if you had to go back and say, all right, well, if you had these players and you wanted to build a base structure, I would probably be more of an odd front slant angle team, but that's not who we are. We're a tight front 3 high team. We're designed to take away B gaps versus spread teams. We're designed to play lighter boxes and get the ball pushed out, C gap and beyond, and then we're set up to answer the issues off of that we have. So now when I'm looking at our pressures that we have diagrammed, I'm trying to find ways to look at it and say, hey, look, is there any way we can wrinkle this to get our guys to move a little bit that might be a little bit better for them? All right, in theory, again, theory, right? The part of football that everybody loves when it comes to drawing plays up, diagramming things, we're talking about in theory now. So like when we go to our 4 down stuff, it's still our mic backer. We can push the front over or bump to get to, those quote unquote over front deals for us. So we do that as well. And 4 under, 2 deep, one of our original trap pressures was a middle safety plug. And then the Sam and the Will are your 2 seam players, trap corners, 2 deep behind it. One of the things we do all the time. But what I started looking at now was maybe if we move our smaller players around a little bit within the same style of pressure, all right, if we went to more of a shade on the center and we asked the nose to cross face and we brought the end behind it, all right, because again, our guys up front are not very big players. Right now up front, we don't play a D lineman that's over 200 pounds. So when you're looking at the guys that we're playing, movement when we need to move and how we can create movements might become a little bit better deal for us, right? So now if we go to more of a shade in the over front and we ask the nose to go across the center's face and we ask the end to go behind, now we're creating some movement inside off the same blitz family. We're not changing, we're not drawing up a new blitz, we're not changing the name of the blitz, we're just changing the path of the 2 interior guys, which in theory makes this almost look like the torch stunt that we've used in even front before where you read off the center. All right, and another thing I've looked at is maybe running the torch stunt with these 2 guys while plugging the B gap into blitz. Right, so these guys could possibly run this as the torch stunt. All right, but the issue is when we run it as the torch stunt, if the center, all right, were to go, all right, if the center were to block towards the nose, now the nose would try and go behind it and that messes up the gap integrity, right? So it looks like the torch front, but we can't exactly play torch front rules because we're plugging the B gap on the front side. This needs to be predetermined nose move 3 technique behind it. Now again, we're not doing that to affect the protection of where the center slides. We're not looking to attack the pass protection. we're doing that within our base blitzes and our single fire, all right, zone pressure stuff. We're doing that to create some movement up front for players that may not be able to just play base technique. So again, you know, the easy way to do this would be to just go one gap move with the 3 tech, leave the 2-eye here in the A gap, and now it's B gap open here, plugged on the front side, so the A gap, B gap, C gap are handled, right? That's the base way that we would do it. But if we're not getting good play from the 2-eye, or we're not getting, all right, what we want out of it, the wrinkle might be adding some interior moves to where now you go that way, all right, and it's still the same theory. It's still the same gaps open. The B gap is open weak side. We're trying to effectively eliminate the A gap with the nose move and the backside A gap with the 3 technique coming under. So we're still trying to do the same things. We're just trying to do it in a way where our guys can be a little bit more efficient, right? Because at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, all these things that we draw up, they all look good on paper, but we have the players we have, all right? We have the guys that we have, and we have to play football based on the players that we have on our roster, right? So how do I get the players on my roster to do jobs that are a little bit more, you know, set up for the skill set that they have, right? So to give them a job that they can accomplish. So in some of our hot pressures, we're still a 6-man pressure, vision and break, 203 deep. We still use those. So in some of our 6-man, when we start to get into like our hot pressure deals, now what we want to look at is how do we gap things out up front, all right? And this is always going to be kind of the, you know, the elephant in the room. If we're going to try and move a little bit to give our guys that are smaller a chance to create some havoc and make plays, are you really gapped out? Because if the movements don't get where they belong, then technically you're not gapped out, right? So one of our 6-mans was an internal plug, all right, with the same movement there. We moved the 2-eye away and we plugged the will in there, all right? So that was one of the things that we were looking at and with our 6-man pressures, because in our hot world, we would rotate away from the SAM, and now we would have vision and break, creating that quasi 8-man front, and now we're plugging the A gaps and the B gaps, all right, on the interior. So one of the things that we wanted to look at was how can we get to a world where our smaller guys, all right, how do we get to a world where our smaller guys are now doing some things that are a little bit more conducive for them? So maybe in this pressure, if we bring the 4-eye under, bring the 2-eye out, the 4-eye under, the will off the edge on that side, and now generate a different movement with the long stick, all right, 5 technique, so our 4-eye that's bumped out to the 5, long sticking him back underneath, taking the nose and making him the B-gap player, making the 5 technique the A-gap player, the will linebacker now off the edge. All right, does that give us a little bit more than just a straight will plug? We're still trying to occupy the A-gap, B-gap, C-gap. We're still trying to gap the pressure out, right? But does that give us a little bit better scenario, all right? You know, for argument's sake, does that give us the scenario we want to get the movement we want? Do you look at it similar to the way we looked at the other pressure and say, okay, let's cross face with the nose there. Let's bring the 3 technique back behind it to the A gap there. Okay, well now when we do that, we can still plug the middle safety in the B gap. All right, and now on this side, we can choose to stay with a will B gap plug and the 5 technique out, or we can move the 5 technique as well, bring the will off the edge. Okay, if we wanted to on the back side, we could bring the mic under and the middle safety off the edge. So the bottom line is we're trying to send 6. We're playing hot coverage, but we're trying to look at paths and deals for the linemen up front that aren't really big bodies, take on blocks, occupy gaps. How can we, within our same structure, same 2 blitzers, same terminology, how can we change the paths to give us something that might be a little bit more effective? All right, so if that's our general path there, is there anything we can do on the backside when we go with the internal plug there, is there anything we can do back here that makes it a little bit better, all right, or more conducive for our guys? So if it was there, loop, A-gap plug, whatever it may be to get us or to generate some system of movement to where our guys up front that aren't big bodies are able to get themselves moving around, get active, use their speed, use their quickness, try and beat blocks across their face. All right, is that a better way for us to pressure when we are trying to pressure? And again, I want everybody to understand, a lot of the times for us, I'm talking about pressures on first down to create tackles for losses to get teams behind the stick. All right, I'm not talking about your pressures that you, all right, are diagrammed or the pressures that you have. So like our third down stuff, so we have some deals that we use on third down to where when we go into our third down package, okay, we certainly have some deals where we are looking at it from the perspective of trying to get guys home based off the center's turn, right? So we certainly have some deals up front where we work some of our games to where we're double mugged up front, all right, and then we're playing different versions of coverage behind it, and now we're working, all right, double mug stuff to where now off the center's turn, now we're looking to generate pressure where center slides to the will pops, all right, opposite the middle safety, and now away from the center slide, all right, we still get a guy in protection, so we do things like that, all right, we do some deals where possibly you show, all right, you know, again, showing mug looks, working things off the center's turn, playing games where it's trying to get home on third down, trying to generate pressures on third down. All right, another deal that we like is trying to get our best pass rusher, and the Browns, the clip that's going around everywhere is the Browns doing it with Myles Garrett, making it look like he's on a basketball court working on a crossover move, right? That clip's going around everywhere, but trying to get our best pass rusher in bear looks, all right, on a center. So one of the ways we do it is we're under loop, and now we take our best pass rusher on the center, and we're trying to work two-way goes off the center. So we do have some third down deals where we are trying to attack protection. So I'm not saying that that's not really in our game plan. I'm not saying that we don't try to attack protections. All right, what I'm saying is there's a time and a place for that in the high school game. What I'm trying to look at as a defense coordinator is how can I help my kids play better football? They're the kids that we have, the 6 or 8 bodies that we use on defense. Those are our guys. Those are our players. And again, you know, right now we're 2-0. We've given up 20 points in the first 2 games. Okay, so again, it's not lights out defense right now. We're not as effective statistically as we were last year in our tight front 3 high defense, but we're doing a good enough job to win games. Now, as I start rolling through film, your job as a coordinator now becomes, okay, with the players that we have that we know we're going to play, all right, the kids that are on our roster, in our program, are there ways within our system without changing the whole system? Are there ways within our system to do some things that make their job a little bit easier? And again, none of these things you won't find out until you get bullets in the fire and you actually try to run them, right? So if we try to run some games where we move the nose and bring the 4-eye behind them, is that really affecting the run scheme? Are we generating any tackles for losses? We won't know until we actually do it. But when I watched the first 2 games with some of our pressures, and again, coming off of some of our 4-down stuff, our single fire, 5-man pressures that are zone pressures, 3 under 3 deep or 4 under 2 deep, whatever the coverage may be. Some of those that we are using, will we get more mileage with some internal games, letting the 4 eyes or the 3 techniques, or, you know, using the quote-unquote torch stunt look, even though we're not reading it out, by bringing a shade across and a 3 behind him? Does that movement on the interior with players that are a little bit smaller give us anything in the run game? And again, it's all trial and error, right? It's all finding ways to, you know, get better with the kids that you have on the field. Will those things be better for us? I don't know. All right, will our gaps get a little bit murky when we start moving around? Possibly. Will it create, you know, worse gap structures, gap sound defense in an attempt to create movement to get tackles for loss? you know, one of the things you may find out is you're trying to generate movement to confuse blocking schemes and get guys, you know, in the backfield and to make tackles for losses on first down and get teams behind the stick. Well, some of those internal movements, if we don't get home, might affect our gap integrity, and we might give up more yards, all right, in first down runs. So it's always a trial and error process, but as a defense coordinator, I think you have to be approaching things to say, who do we have? What is happening to us? How can we protect what we have, right? So that's one of the things I'm looking at right now, 3 weeks into the season. Again, we're 2-0 right now, and you know, we're not playing terrible football, but it's not where I want it to be on defense. So at some point, we've got to look at the structure and work on the base structure. So that's one of the big themes this week, is say we've got to play base defense a lot better. And then the add-on to that is, can we change some of our paths that might make some of our kids more effective, right? So always looking at answers, always looking at ways to protect your system and use your system. We're not getting away from base defense. That's not what we do. We are a base defense team. We are a tight front, 3-high team, and all the protection components built off that. But what we are trying to do, or at least I am trying to do, is week by week figure out if there's a better movement plan for us with our kids that are a little bit lighter. So I appreciate you guys following Play Fast. Remember, hit that subscribe button, turn the notifications on so you know every time we do a video or go on YouTube Live. I believe I am going to schedule a YouTube Live for tonight, Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, so that I can check in with everybody and see how their seasons are going, and we can discuss what's going on, what they're seeing, what you're playing, adjustments you're trying to make, and then I can talk to you about things I'm trying to do and why I'm trying to do them. So make sure you turn those notifications on so you'll know when I go on YouTube Live. Again, I'll probably be on tonight at 8 o'clock. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Like the video, don't like the video, let me know. It lets me figure out the content I'm doing and then how I'm providing it. And then, as always, leave a comment in the comment section. I respond to every comment that I can see on my end, positive or negative. I appreciate you watching the video, so if it's a negative comment, I still respond with my 2 cents on it, because I appreciate you being there, and it's your opinion, so you have the right to comment on a video that's on a public forum, right? So leave a comment. If it's a comment about a video and I feel like I can do that video, I will always try to do so. But again, I appreciate you guys following Play Fast. You can check us out on Patreon as well, patreon.com, Coach Mac. Today I just put up 2 or 3 drives from our previous game. So on Patreon, I actually show you clips of us playing the stuff that we play. So you can check us out on Patreon as well. But thanks for following Play Fast. Hope your season's going well. Remember, you won't play well until you play fast. See you guys next time.